years. It means so much to these players. It means a lot to the Leicester fans as well.
Listen, let's have this story, mate. Listen to it. We've worked so hard all season. We deserve this. We deserve this. Everything we've done's paid off. But it's absolutely fantastic for Leicester. We're now back on the map. Words can't explain it. We've played for so long.
They've never won it in the history of the club in 130 years. They've never won the ultimate and they've done it in the most unlikely time when in the Premiership. The difference between the small clubs and big clubs is so big, and no one thought there's ever come a time when that never ever happened again.
I thought a League Cup final with Matt Elliott scored twice was the best I'll ever see as a Leicester fan. I was 7 years old at the time. I thought that was the best I'll ever see. What have we done? Just what have we done? It's not actually happened. It's not actually happened.
It has. It's real. Leicester City have won the Premier League title. It's an unbelievable story, this. The first league title in the club's history, the 6th different Premier League champions, the 4th different champions in the last 4 seasons. The first new champions for 38 years, and they become the 24th different club to win the English top division title. Look at that turnaround from last season. The odds, it's been so well talked about. I was looking for bigger odds, and I couldn't find them in anything to do with football. Bradford were 500 to 1 to beat Chelsea 4-2 in the cup. That's as bad as bigger odds as you can find. The 100th successive night tonight at the top of the table. That's where they will stay. Claudio Ranieri is a great story himself. 28 years as a manager, his first top division title, and you saw those players celebrating. Only Robert Huth has any experience of winning a Premier League title. What a story it is. Let's go back, Jamie, go right back to the beginning of this tale. We talked earlier about Ranieri written off, Leicester written off, 5,000 to 1. It's just a token price. You don't expect any money on it at all. They were the 17th favourites, if that's the way to describe it. How important is an opening day then, getting a win under your belt in this fashion?
It was, especially the way we'd spoken about Ranieri, or he had been spoken about before he got the job. So you need to make a great start, and of course they got the win, but I think this game was 2-3 up. 20-25 minutes.
3 up after 25.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what Ranieri needed, because the pressure and the criticism he was getting, it wasn't just from outside. I think even Leicester fans were looking at thinking, couldn't understand the appointment. Obviously, the previous manager lost his job, and it wasn't something they expected. So you're already thinking, maybe 5 or 6 games in, if it doesn't go well, and the crowd maybe getting on his back, would they look to change? That's how sort of the appointment was received by most people. So to get off to that great start was huge for him.
And when people are writing you off, how important then you get off to a start like that, a fast start of the season?
I think it's the be all and end all, really, you know, and I think, you know, obviously we'll hear for the Leicester players over the course of time, but I'd like to know what their thought process was going into the start of the season, and no doubt, like Ranieri's was, it was to get to 40 points, and that was their
but also surely to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah,
the motivation was there.
Yeah, of course, and the season before they'd come off of a good run of games. Obviously Nigel Pearson had done a good job, and I think their main focus was to stay up. Let's not have a season like we had previously, and let's stay up and let's get off to a good start. And they got the points on the board early on, and then from there really it's been on the crest of a wave really, and it's just snowballed and snowballed to a point where before you know it they started to dream.
So can we go to September now, mid-September? Jamie, you talk about their resilience. This is where we really first saw it. They were 2 down with 18 minutes to go against Villa.
I think this is a huge result for both clubs really. I think we ever recovered from this Aston Villa, but I was at this game and wasn't in the studio. I was actually in the stadium watching it, and the gantry and the atmosphere was unbelievable. I mean, there's stadiums that you associate with fantastic atmospheres. Leicester probably wasn't one of them until I went there that day. And the things I think the owners have done, the clappers together, and it's almost like a derby game. And to be 2-0 down to Aston Villa, we know how poor Aston Villa were and have been this season, and to turn it round, I think that was the story of their season early on in that season. It wasn't keeping clean sheets, as we're talking about, it was conceding goals and coming back from behind 2-0, they win 3-2, but of course that's massive victory for them. You can imagine the lift something like that gives them, and the belief whenever they then go behind again, that they can come back.
And it was a pattern now, Scott. In October they went to St Mary's. They were 2-0 down at half-time, being totally outplayed. Mahrez came on for the second half, and they did this with another comeback.
And like Jamie said, it's these moments in games what builds confidence and breeds confidence and starts getting a team and individual players believing that, you know, we can do something this year. And like I said, obviously still at this point, Leicester was still contemplating probably, you know, staying in the league or at least getting into Europe.
But Jamie Vardy's emerging now. He got 8 in 6. People were starting to sit up and take notice, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And, you know, the story of Jamie Vardy is one which is quite incredible. Obviously, like we said, you know, coming from where he's come from. And like you said, it snowballed in terms of the goals he was scoring, breaking records. And he's been the pinnacle of what Leicester have done, really.
So that game was part of a run for Leicester after an Arsenal game. You remember it end-to-end, Jamie, the 5-2. Look at this for the 10 results afterwards. Why was that such a turning point?
Well, I think a lot of this season, I think Ranieri's getting the credit he deserves now, but I think you've got to look at that Arsenal game and the defeat, and he changed some things tactically. I think he changed the full-backs. They were a lot more offensive at the start of the season, hence why they were conceding goals. And then I think that's where a lot more of that solidity come from, in terms of a bit more defensive. You had Simpson there at right back, Fuchs at left back, and now we're talking about this back four that doesn't move, never moves out of position, and that's something he changed. You know, of course, there was a lot of players there from the previous regime, but that was a big moment for him in changing that. He couldn't keep clean sheets, talking about the pizza, taking out when you got a clean sheet, but he was a major part of that before because it was just end-to-end goals. It's like you associate two different teams in terms of winning this league. It was a different team at the start of the season to what we're seeing now. It's evolved into this sort of mean machine of keeping clean sheets, nicking things 1-0. Before that, it was very open end-to-end, you know, type of football, and I think Claudio Ranieri, that's the biggest thing he'd done certainly after that game.
There's so many highlights in the season, Scott, but this surely now has to be the moment of the season. The iconic commentary from Martin Tyler as well. It's 11 and heaven for Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Jamie Vardy has scored 11.
This is part of the season what we'll all remember as one of the great parts for not only Jamie Vardy, for Leicester, and like you said, obviously famous for Martin Tyler's commentary and that. And this was probably the start of it. I think this is when people maybe just started to stand up and think, you know what, these could be a force.
And do you remember a big moment came then? Monday Night Football against Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was a huge night for Chelsea. Remember Jose's interview, Jose's last game. But the realisation to completely take apart the champions. We knew we hadn't started the season well. Leicester at the top of the league, and you think it's a flash in the pan. Chelsea will go there, do a job on them, and it could have been 5 or 6. They absolutely battered them. And that was, I think, one of those big signs that I think a lot of the time when you win games, or you're on a run, or as we've said, you come from behind, it gives you self-belief. I think games like that, when everyone's watching, it's live on TV, and you beat a really big team, I think it sends a message out to the rest of the people watching, the rest of the league. This is not a flash in the pan, or this is not a freak result. This is a proper team. Now, no one believed they were going on and win the league at that stage, but you thought there's more to this than just, you know, a great start to the season.
They put them on top of the table. Mourinho, as you say, was sacked 3 days later. They then went 3 without a win to White Hart Lane, and was this the results, picking up what Jamie just said there, where they really did start to believe?
Yeah, certainly, and especially coming out of 3 games where you've not won. You know, if ever there was a time when maybe the wheels could have started to come off, it would have been at this point. And to then go to White Hart Lane against a very good Tottenham side and go and get a result was key. And I think, like again, they then stepped on it again and really started to push forward, really.
What a huge result that was when you look back at the win at White Hart Lane. And then again, Jamie, at Manchester City, where I think this is where you said they're the real deal.
Yeah, I think going into that game,
that's when
I felt they'd win this game going into it. I felt every team that played against Man City, if you had energy and pace, you just run over them, I think the legs have gone. And that's what Leicester about. I mean, in his interview before, he said they're like the RAF, with the pace of them. But after that game, I thought they were going to win the league. That's what I thought. Again, another big performance. Don't forget, City was still on the running. I think at that stage, very close. Maybe even if City had won that game, they'd gone above them or got.
Yeah, they extended the lead to 6 points.
Okay,
Well, off the back of that.
I think that, again, as I said with the Chelsea one, was a message again to everyone. You're going to title rivals away from home and you're winning, but not just winning and hanging on, winning comprehensively. You know, it was 3-0 or 3-1. And I think that was the day I believed. Listen, I still probably didn't think they would go on and win it, but I believed they've got a great chance of winning this league now.
So they were 6 clear on February the 6th, Valentine's Day. Everyone waiting for it to go wrong for Leicester, and then everyone started to say, this is it. The wobble's begun when Arsenal scored late.
Yeah, and obviously you remember the game clearly. They held on for some time. 10 men, and then literally at the death, Arsenal go and get a winner, which was... And it's times like this in championships where doubt can set in, doubt can start setting in, and maybe that's where, like I said earlier, maybe things can start tragically going wrong. But full credit to them and what like they've shown all year. They've shown a real resilience, a real character. These are the words what keep coming up: team spirit, and yeah. Like I said, it ended up proving that they held on and they come back with some more good results.
They would be written off after that, weren't they? Arsenal beat them, they were a little bit unlucky, but yet look at the way they responded, Jen. We often talk about response of champions. I mean, that is remarkable, isn't it?
It is, and that's
Arsenal, look what happened.
the mentality of those players.
Arsenal lost to Arsenal.
As you get later onto the season, of course it's your ability, you get to go and win games, but when those questions are being asked, you automatically think players who've never been at the top end of the table, or clubs who've never been there, would fall away mentally, really, to be weak. I think you see that all the time when the former champions or teams who are up there consistently, they power through a season and they catch you a bit. How many times did Manchester United do that, where they caught someone? You think of the Newcastle one where they'd never been there before, it was too much for them mentally. And how many times they came back for questions we asked, because we were asking the questions because we wanted to be tighter. We wanted to be a good, you know.
They haven't given anyone a sniff, really, have they?
No, and I think, you know, you're looking at how the games fell for them in terms of, you know, Manchester United and Chelsea away. I always thought if they'd have come a bit earlier, they'd have dropped points because they'd have been a bit tighter. But they've got to a stage now where they don't need the Chelsea game away, which is one of your toughest games. But how many times they answered questions from us, you know, after defeats or a run of games and then go over Christmas, who said, have we got the squad to cope? And then a run of fixtures of tough games, and they won most of them. So
it was 1-0 a lot, wasn't it? Clean sheets.
Well, that's what they did, and how many times, like, I go back to Manchester United, they talk about 1-0 wins, how important they are. And that's what it was. It was a completely different team. Second half of the season, what we've seen, really. And that's where Ranieri takes the credit. But in terms of the actual mentality and what they've had to go through, they never, ever look nervous. I can't remember a game where you think they were hanging on. Even the West Ham one, they came back and still got the 2-2. It wasn't like they were hanging on West Ham.
What nerve this man showed at Joe. You talked about Defoe earlier, Jamie, pressure penalty. This was huge.
Of course it was. With everything that had gone on, it felt like a win. It wasn't that on the points that day, it was a point. But psychologically that was huge because they'd gone in the dressing room. Hogan, as we've seen the celebrations before, maybe something similar. They'd gone down to 10 men, 2-1 down, and they get that last minute goal. So that there in adversity in a game to come back, we've said how many times they came back after, you know, a draw or a defeat, they responded well, but to respond in the game as well. And I'm just trying to rack my brains and think of a time I ever thought they looked like they were going to wobble. I can't think of one.
Did you think they were going to wobble at any stage? Were you looking on thinking, this could be it?
Yeah, there was many times, and every time you fought it, they proved you wrong. Every single time you thought, you know, today's the day when I think they're going to have a little wobble up. And you know what? I think the main thing for me, and the one who takes massive credit is obviously Ranieri. But I think the way he dealt with it psychologically, in terms of, as a manager of a football club, when you're going to face a camera and doing interviews, you're giving out a message. Now, whether that message is to the media, to your fans, or it's to your players. And I think at times this year, I think he's given a message to his players. And I think he's took a lot of pressure off his players by what he's saying. And if you're in that change room, sitting there, listening to your manager, like we all do after a game, you sit there, you listen to what your manager's saying. You know, at times this year, for me, he's just took that pressure off him at times and really eased it off and always spoke down about it. I'm going on to the next game. It's just one game at a time. And I think that's had a massive effect, really. I think it's helped him a lot.
And he's won the title. Claudio Ranieri, the first time he's done that. Leicester, the Premier League champions. What a journey it has been. And just look at the contrasts. Leicester 14th the previous season. The average for champions is second. Just shows the turnaround is just amazing. points behind previous champions is just extraordinary. 46, the average 4.2. And the continuity's been a big thing, hasn't it, Jamie? 27 changes, a couple enforced in recent games, with Vardy suspended, now Drinkwater.
That's when he was
as well.
the Tinkerman. Not the Tinkerman no more, is he?
95.4 the average.
Kept dropping Scott.
Unpredictable, you said earlier he was.
I know. Well, that's where he's probably evolved as a manager. You know, people say in football, don't they? You never stop learning. You never, and probably he's learned from that. You know, I think it was something which at times, certainly when I was at Chelsea, at times it wasn't good, and yeah, he's certainly not done it. He's become more predictable. I think we can name the substitution he makes. You know, at certain minutes of the games, at 60 minutes, Okazaki normally comes off, and so yeah, full credit to him.
So just to sum this up then, and go back to something you said earlier, is this a story, the greatest upset ever in sport, not just football, that's changed football? Will football now be completely different in the sense you can never write any team off? A recruitment process where they've showed how to do it, you don't need to spend millions and millions and millions.
Well, I think we should mention, and we've mentioned the players, the manager, Steve Walsh. I think how important recruitment is. I think we'd all say that in football. Biggest thing for a manager. I think he's had great help there from someone who's already at the club. But what it will do, no one will ever be able to have an excuse now about not doing well in a season, or we can't do this, we can't do that. People will always throw Leicester at you. Now, is this going to happen every year? Of course it's not. But there's a hope from me that it happens a lot more often than it has done in probably the last 20, 30 years. I think the decade of the 70s, I think there was probably 6 or 7 different winners. I think it'd be fantastic for football, for fans of every club, thinking that your team had a chance going into a season. And that's what they've done. I've said that before. They've given hope to everyone on all kinds of different levels that your club can achieve something, have that one day in the sun. It may even be an FA Cup victory. It doesn't have to be the league championship. You think of West Ham this season, how close they are to the Champions League. They could do that. That's another surprise. Tottenham being second, let's be honest about that. When was the last time they've done that? Just when they won the title, I don't think they've been in the top 2 since that. And you just hope now, maybe with the money in the Premier League, the top teams have always had that money. And when you've got top players, it's difficult to actually improve on what you've got, no matter how much money you've got. But those teams that are in Leicester's position, anywhere in the Premier League now, they can improve a lot. The money in the Premier League means that teams in our bottom half can go to Porto, Benfica, Ajax, PSV, big names of European football, and maybe take their best players. So it should make the league a lot more competitive, and hopefully in the future, it's not going to happen every season, of course not, but you'll see these stories because that's what the game's about.
Does this change the landscape in football in this country?
I think it does, yeah, for sure. I think the main thing is, for me, it shows you what a team can achieve. And in terms of, you can have the big individuals, you can spend the 50 millions on certain one player, but I think Leicester today have showed people that a real team effort, a togetherness can, and we all see it in movies, don't we? We see them movies, the team come together and we stick together and we win. This is a movie. It's a blockbuster, isn't it? And it's one at the end. What's going to say?
You're going to start making it in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end, it's going to say it's based on a true story, and that's the amazing thing about it.
It also says that any team, in whatever sport, what you can do with spirit.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And Jamie's been in unbelievable teams. What have had that spirit, and you know, for me, I personally think, and I'm sure James is the same. If you've got that, you've got half a chance. You can have your brilliant players and your one-off players, but if you've got that real togetherness and that real hunger for each other, you've got half a chance. And in Leicester's case, you've got more than half a chance, like they've shown when they've done with the league.
Can they defend this title next season, or we're going to have to wait another 50 years for a Leicester? Or...
Well, like Jamie just said, I think anything you can say now, people can throw back at you. And how could anyone say they couldn't? Because for me to sit here and say they've won the league now is quite incredible. So anything for me is possible. Anything is possible.
Amazing. What an incredible night it has been. The Stamford Bridge and also the King Power. Look, they're gathering. What is it, 5 to 11 at night, and there they are gathering to celebrate outside the King Power Stadium. I'm sure they'll be back on Saturday. What a day that promises to be. It will be incredible. What an atmosphere. The place will be jumping. Leicester play Everton and they will lift the Premier League trophy. Don't miss it, 5 o'clock, Sky Sports 1. Heartbreak for Tottenham tonight at Stamford Bridge. Leicester City are the Premier League champions. What an incredible story.
We are a little team, but we want to be bigger.
The eyes of the football world are on this Leicester City team. Can they keep this dream alive?
We play with our hearts. I don't want to wake up, no. I want to continue to dream.
They are believing here.
It's something magic. Magic.
The fearless forces stride on. The surge of power and the king power goes on. They really are starting to think it is their destiny. And the fairy tale goes on. Just listen to the noise of the king power. And that's the live wire now at it again. Leicester player has snatched that record. Never writes Leicester City off. We are seeing something special. A story like this may never happen again.
We had a dream. Now it's important to make a dream a reality.
3 points closer to Premier League paradise. The Leicester City.
Win the league in 38 games was absolutely
Enjoy Sky Sports Live on all screens, on the go, and the best bits on demand.